Member of Parliament for St. Augustine. How are you?
Good, good.
All right, good to hear. Good to hear.
All right. We understand these are statements you want to make.
No, Wendell and I were having a little discussion about the situation with our councillors, secretaries, salaries. So I thought I would share a bit with you guys this morning. Councillors were first given secretaries under the UNC People's Partnership Government, and councillors' salary is $3,000 a month. As you know, councillors have offices. They open, most of them open 8 to 4 Monday to Friday. And what has happened over time is that since 2010 or 2011, when that came into being, we had several increases in the minimum wage. And now councillors are getting below what is minimum wage. Councillors, secretaries, sorry. This has to be corrected. Councillors are paid out of the corporation fund, but I think it has to do with how the position was created. And I don't think it's much for the current government and the current Minister of Local Government to ensure that steps are taken so that councillors, secretaries get a salary on par with other persons who do similar jobs, who do similar duties. Because, for instance, a clerk in the corporation's office will get a clerical assistant type salary and so on. And that has to be rectified. We have situations where people are leaving the job, people are offering to work part-time because that salary really is not a full-time salary. And I believe Faris Alwari is aware of it. And I don't know what has prevented him or the government as a whole from correcting that situation.
Has that been raised at all in the Parliament, MP?
It has been mentioned on several occasions, and I actually filed a motion on the adjournment for the minister to bring some type of reply. But I found it was something that, for instance, you have the new local government reform that has been passed by the Parliament. You have provisions there for councillors' salaries and so on, and I find that could have been addressed there. But there are other provisions that can be made even within the existing laws. But I think it's totally unacceptable for councillors, secretaries to continue to work under such conditions, being very underpaid.
Good morning, Khadijah.
Good morning, Paul.
We miss you in the upper house.
Oh yes, I've been staying in tune with what you all are doing, and I thought you spoke an excellent speech about the commissions of inquiries and the cost to the country and then what comes out of it. But I know that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, it continues next week. I asked a question of the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government yesterday related to when the full proclamation of the local government reform bill will take place, and also if there were any challenges identified by the corporations in getting ready for that full proclamation and operationalization, and also the financial oversight. And the minister indicated in the next 12 months, which disappointed me. What's your response to that information?
Well, we have been hearing that there will be a schedule in terms of implementation, proclamation and implementation for the new legislation. The ministry has hired people called change agents, and they have been assigned to corporations. But in the meanwhile, what is happening is that the chief officers assigned to the corporations either their contracts are coming to an end or the corporation is not getting the funds to pay those persons. So we don't know if these change agents are supposed to replace the chief officers. The chief officers are in the act. So that is also presenting some confusion. And I think the minister has to be very clear in his way forward. You have new legislation. You have several corporations that require improvement in delivery of services. And they have been getting less and less funding. in many cases, they get funds just barely enough to pay their workers. But for instance, workers do not have tools, they don't have materials. So you have construction workers doing nothing because they have no material, but you have to pay them. You must pay them because they are permanent employees. Um, I think there are several things within the Local Government Act that can be implemented in a short space of time once the proclamation is made. It is unfortunate that the only part of the legislation the government sought to proclaim was the part to extend the term of office from 3 years to 4 years. And, as things passed, we realized that was only an attempt to postpone the local government election. Thankfully, through threat of legal action and so on, the elections went ahead. But for instance, there's a section of the act that speaks to the councillors' salaries being determined by the Minister of Finance as opposed to the Salary Review Commission. Now, I will tell you, I have reservations about any political creature determining the salary for anyone, including and especially another political creature. So you have a minister determining the salary for a councillor. But as it is, it has been passed in Parliament, and I felt that the minister could have used that opportunity to provide councillors with a suitable salary. Councillors get about $6,000 a month when you include their allowances and so on at this time. And you have thought so much in terms of the demand. In the recent Salary Review Commission report to the Parliament, I think there was a recommendation for an increase of about $1,500. I really don't think that's enough, and especially when you have that same report recommended $80,000 for the Prime Minister. So we have to look at that, and I think that is an area that can easily be proclaimed, seeing as you have already proclaimed the term of office being 4 years. The conditions of the employment and the engagement of councillors have to be looked at as a whole. So you have a proposal to have full-time councillors who are executive members of an executive council, but you must have a salary that is suitable to that. There are many councillors who are, for instance, have full-time jobs. They are teachers, they are in the public service, they are in the public health sector, for instance. You have those who have legal practice and other professional practices, and they will have to give that up if they accept a position as a member of the executive committee. Now, the executive committee is like cabinet. So you can be a member of parliament without being a member of cabinet. Similarly, I suppose you can be a member of council without being a member of the executive council. So at that time, a person can make their choice if they want to give up their job, give up their practice. But still, the salary for a councillor right now does not even allow a councillor to really even do their job properly sometimes. When you consider that part of the provisions for travelling officers within the public service for members of parliament and so on includes things like a vehicle allowance, vehicle tax breaks to purchase a vehicle when a vehicle is a key instrument in a council performing their job. So we really have to look at the terms and conditions of our councillors if we want to have representation. I mean, because being a councillor is a 24-hour job. And those are some areas that I feel that the government could use the legislation to begin to implement something positive immediately. They are also.
But then, Khadijah, Richard here, Raguba is saying, tell me something. Interestingly enough, we had this conversation when that SRC report came out. I remember Wendell and I discussing it on air, and I raised the issue that why would people want to give up their jobs if it's posited at that salary level that they're suggesting, even to become a counselor? But I mean, counselor, you may want to do it out of love and devotion for your community, etc. I get all of that. But that issue of compensation, as indicated by that SRC report, just did not seem, in our opinion, and Wendy, they could correct me if I'm wrong, that they considered that the legislation has been reformed and that some of these people are going to have to give up their jobs. And additionally, which is what you just talked about there. And additionally, I can't remember, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, whether the Minister of Finance, in bringing up the anomalies of the SRC report and saying that certain anomalies came up and it was going to be sent back to the SRC committee, I can't remember him mentioning local government officials as being part of that anomaly.
Well, the minister may not have wanted to mention it because I think then very quickly persons would have suggested that the power is in his hands to make a change and to remove councillors from the Salary Review Commission once that section of the local government legislation is proclaimed, because that is what is in the legislation. You are right. There are many councillors who do it. I mean, yes, you do it for the love of your community, but there's also a practical sense in it. It is not new that the Salary Review Commission has provided really unrealistic recommendations. Even when I was a councillor and when I was chairman of the Tunapuna Piapo Corporation, between 2010 and 2013, the executive of the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Local Government Bodies also did a full assessment in terms like a manpower assessment in terms of what the job of a councillor is, and provided that to the SRC. And they did not budge. They did not, provide a recommendation in keeping with what we know the job of a councillor is. So even in the local government debate in Parliament, the minister spoke about this. The minister spoke about SRC not being realistic. And I am really stunned as to why the minister has that power in the legislation, and the government has not proclaimed that section of the legislation to correct what is clearly wrong.
Khadijah, I wanted to quick touch a bit on the internal wranglings within the UNC in terms of these 5 MPs who are now labeled as dissidents and so on. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, now let me tell you, you are in a political party. You have been in local government. You have been in your party for many years, and very often, what happens inside the party is sometimes more challenging than what happens outside. What I can tell you, the reality of every people's day-to-day life is that crime is skyrocketing. People are living in fear. Food prices are through the roof. People cannot afford food. We have so many hardships in terms of unemployment and so on, and people are concerned about that. I think it appears that it appears to me as a PNM team's actions. I have seen PNM elements working with some of these persons, but
Dinesh Rambali, you're labeling a PNM team member.
Well, I say PNM team because I have seen PNM elements working with these persons. But I am certain that in terms of UNC's representation on the ground will not be compromised. I'm certain that we will continue to be a voice for people and to provide representation while the internal issues are dealt with.
Well, I'm certain that the UNC will not lose a single vote because of their actions. But at the same time, this has happened before within the party, and it has brought about a change in government. If you remember, with Ramesh, Ralph, and Trevor, it brought about a change in government. So it's not to be dismissed.
Yes, but I mean, Ramesh Lawrence Maraj was a phenomenal figure. I don't see any of the current players as having that level of support. But as I say, I am sure their concerns can be dealt with internally if that is their intention. I also don't believe that their actions and what they are saying will compromise the UNC's level of service to the country.
But do you think this damages brand UNC in any way? All political parties go through turmoil. There was Mr. Manning and Dr. Rowley before. There was Dr. Williams and A.N.R. Robinson, the late, before. All political parties go through turmoil from time to time. It's an element of change. Do you think this is damaging brand UNC as the country heads to a national election next year?
And I think that is a very important question for those persons to consider. Of course, they will say no. Of course, they may not have a full appreciation of the effects of some of their negative words. But I can tell you, being a person on the ground, I can tell you that many people are very dismissive of them. It does not shake their belief in the UNC. In fact, what I've seen is that more people are rallying behind the political leader because of the actions and the utterances of those persons in terms of telling her to stay strong and so on. And I'm not talking about UNC members and what they like to label as UNC sycophants. I'm talking about people in marginal seats, people who are fed up of PNM and are making a difference, people who voted for the UNC in the last local government elections that caused us to win seats we have never won before. You know, those people are saying that they don't even know who some of these people are, you know, and they don't care. What they care about is what they are facing every day when they have to put food on their table, when they have to go in the hospital and have no medication, when there are crimes going on in the country that the police can't solve, that you can't feel safe. That is what they are concerned about. They don't even know half of these people. They don't care.
You are a vice chair of the UNC, right? Correct?
Yes.
I just want some clarity, or we just want some clarity in this.
You mean a deputy leader?
A deputy leader, sorry.
Mhm.
Is there, because
I've leader, currently deputy chairman, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
because I've heard so much information and different perspectives on this. Is there going to be an internal election for the United National Congress this year or before the general elections?
That is a decision for the national executive, and no decision has been taken. In fact, the election is not even due yet. And I think in due course, the national executive will take a decision. That is not something for an individual to take a decision on.
So there's no decision taken yet. Okay.
Is
Isn't
it
that
due in
constitutional?
June?
So what happens is that the Constitution provides for the decisions of the national executive to be ratified by a Congress. You know, so those things happen regularly. I have been in the party for many years, and I can tell you that whenever we have situations with, for instance, internal elections, Congress, and parliamentary arm, and these type of things, it is only when Kamala Persad-Bissessar became leader that those things became regular occurrences. And I think that is good and important for the strength and the democracy within the party, because we do have a one-man, one-vote system. So I think that is a key thing to note, that we have had several internal elections. I ask those who have been involved in the politics before 2010 to recall internal elections before 2010, you know. But the truth is that I am committed to strengthening the UNC as a political party, as an institution, because I know that the UNC is a people-centered political party, and we continue to be the voice of people in government as well as even in opposition, because many, many issues in this country were only brought to light because of the opposition's vigilance.
Are you suggesting that under Basdeo Pandey, democracy wasn't practiced?
Well,
democracy within the party?
History will speak for itself, but persons who have been involved in the politics longer than me could testify in terms of their own experience, in terms of the number and the frequency of internal elections. But I can speak for the time that I have been involved in the party. And I've always participated in the internal mechanisms of the party, even when I was not an elected representative. And it is something that I think is important to our institution. And Kamala Persad-Bissessar, as a leader, has continuously strengthened democracy in the party, not only in terms of what is in the Constitution, but in terms of allowing people to have a say and to participate and so on. And I think that is commendable.
Khadijah, if I could just, there was an incident on the weekend. I don't know how much you want to say. We're very happy that you are safe, given what we've seen in the public domain, because you're a friend to the show and we hold you in high regard. Is there anything you want to say on that situation on the weekend that you can share with the audience? Because there's a lot of information and misinformation and moving and back and going on. We just wanted to give you an opportunity to say anything you wanted to say on that situation.
Well, first of all, I want to just reassure you guys and the public that I am safe. I am aware that there are a lot of rumors circulating, a lot of contradicting stories, most of it untrue. But I have been advised that I am seeking legal advice, and I have been advised not to give a comment as yet. But certainly, as time progresses, I'm sure there will come a point in time when I will. But it's just safe to say that this is not a situation that I intend to allow to rest. But certainly, I really appreciate the legal advice that I am receiving at this time. But I just want to also give my constituents the assurance that I will continue to do my work. I will continue to be with you. Most of what you are hearing is not true, and there's no need to be worried, as because of what is circulating. And I want to take this opportunity too to thank all those many people who have reached out, just to say, hey, you're safe, you're good. And the answer is yes, I'm safe, I'm good. There's a lot of misinformation circulating, but I will address it in due course.
I think, Khadijah and guys, one of the most disturbing things that came out of this story is the release of what appears to be police transcripts. And I hope that you follow through on that, because it's a feature now of incidents where you see this reports circulating about PC this investigated that, used this vehicle. And it appears, I don't know, it appears to be coming from a police transcript.
Yeah, within.
Well, Wendell, as Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, I have been very outspoken about murders within the constituency. We had a series of murders in the train line area, for instance, and on many occasions, relatives of the murder victims and other persons within the community who felt it important to give information to the police regretted it, because they almost as soon as they leave the police station, information would be out there, and they themselves would be jeopardized. Because when police confidentiality is breached, sometimes people could lose their lives. And that has unfortunately become a feature of our police service, and it means that public trust and confidence is compromised in the police service. I have always been facilitating the police in my constituency. I have hosted several community police meetings, attended meetings when they have meetings. I have facilitated mediation in so-called hotspots, social outreach exercises of the police, and so on. And I have seen that issue of police confidentiality affecting the confidence in the police service in a general way. While I don't want to speak in terms of what is circulating, if you have three different things that appear to be police reports circulating, contradicting each other, clearly some of it is not true. But you are right. The question is, how is that circulating in the first place? But as I say, I don't want to say more, because I am getting legal advice on the matter. But suffice it to say that the fact that these things are regular occurrences in the TTPS is something that is really alarming. And in fact, there are people who have lost their lives because of inappropriate action by police officers.
Do you feel yourself under any threat? You said you're safe, and I'm really happy about that. But do you feel any threat over you, anything, or are you just feeling safe as ever?
Well, I can tell you that because of the information circulating, for instance, including my vehicle number and so on, I have to take additional steps to make myself safe, which I give you the assurance I will be doing. But I also fear for persons who, for instance, might be witnesses in murder cases and other issues surrounding serious crime in the country, whose lives are put even more at risk because of, as I say, inappropriate police action. And I want to make it very clear that there are good officers in the police service, but the fact is that there are issues to be addressed. And to me, this is a continued failure of the Ministry of National Security, a minister who doesn't seem to have a handle on things. And it has to be corrected. It has to be addressed. This is not about me. This is about a nation at risk, So I don't know as yet what exactly transpired to lead to all that information that has gone out, different twists that are circulating and so on. But I trust that the TTPS will be able to get to the bottom of it in the meanwhile.
Did you make a police report at all on Khadijah?
As Wendell, as I indicated, I don't want to speak about I've been advised not to speak about the circumstances, so I will not do that at this time. There will come a time when I will be allowed to share certain things, but at this time, suffice it to say that a lot of what is circulating is not true, and it is very concerning that such information that appears to be coming from police sources could be out there.
Yeah, all right. And I'm assuming that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has been apprised of everything that has been transpired with you, because I know that you are one of her favorites.
It is not a matter of one of her favorites. I do respect her as a political leader. I sit on a parliament bench where she's the leader of opposition, and as a member of parliament, it is my duty to inform her of something that has transpired with me personally and something that is out in the public domain. So in that regard, certainly, it is not about being a favorite at all.
All right. Thank you for being with us this morning. We appreciate you taking time to be with us.